Would you be favor for taxing food and medicine?
I don't think you'd find much support for that in our caucus.
Right. Your caucus, President Stivers?
No, and not taxing medical marijuana either. Why would you tax something that's medicinal to try to balance a budget? That's totally against what we have been for years since the institution of the severance tax, which was done to replace the tax on food and medicines.
I had a tweet earlier saying, have them free the weed. So are you, President Stivers, are you favoring freeing the weed for medicinal purposes?
I thought only our family members were the only ones watching this tonight because everybody else was watching the ball game. But I know none of my family members are asking to free the weed. At least I hope not. But I think there's a path forward on medicinal marijuana because I read 20-some odd studies that were delivered to me. The key words in there are statistically significant indicators for using it where there is spasticity in MS and nausea in cancer treatments. So when you look at that, but not for glaucoma, any ophthalmologist will tell you there are better medicines for glaucoma that have greater half-lives and reduce pressure better. But when you start getting into recreational marijuana, the other things those studies told me, anybody under the age of 25, it is adverse to full brain development. Anybody that has long-term exposure has a higher likelihood of psychotic events. And if you smoke it, it has 50% more carcinogens than cigarettes. So we're going to outlaw cigarettes because it causes lung cancer, but we're going to legalize marijuana.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
I do remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, sir, that last year you expressed some concern about medicinal marijuana, the dosage, et cetera. So you have been educated enough, or you've seen studies presented because of the conversations have been a little bit more robust that have convinced you otherwise, perhaps? I've
always said I think there's a path, but nobody has sat down and really come up with a good plan about, and I got some criticism for this as well. It's good for anxiety. Well, there's a lot of things that are good for anxiety, but you have to have marijuana. And I had a very well-renowned Democrat that if I said this and spoke their name, they said, look, they're prescribing that in California for 18-year-olds for anxiety. Is that where we want to go? Not me.
To this side, medicinal marijuana, and then we have other issues that we didn't quite get to, but let's start there first.
Well, I think there is plenty of support to pass medicinal marijuana if we're permitted to have a vote. It passed 17-1 in the House Judiciary Committee last year.
But it did not get a floor vote.
But it did not get a floor vote, and it happened late in the session. Hopefully some minds have been opened and some more study has been done, and maybe we're ready for that now. I don't think we're ready for recreational marijuana in Kentucky, but I think medicinal marijuana's time has come. I've co-sponsored for the past 3 years. I've studied and read up on it, not only for the benefits that it would give for our veterans and who suffer from PTSD, not anxious 18-year-olds, but those who have served our country and are very much in favor of this, and people with epilepsy, but also because in states that have passed medicinal marijuana, they have found that it's rather than being considered a gateway drug, it can be an off-ramp drug, so that those who are suffering from opioid addiction can use marijuana medicinally to help them reduce the symptoms of opioid addiction. And actually there's been a 25% average reduction in the number of overdoses in those states who have passed it, 32 states, and the District of Columbia. We may be up to 33 states.
Actually, it's 36. And let me say, Representative Hatton's point is I want to second her point, that studies have shown that states that have medicinal marijuana have seen their opioid addiction decrease by over 50%. Is what it is, Angie. It's over 50%. And as Robert,
I think the latest AMA study that was a year ago, it said 25, so that's where she gets that 25%.
Well, I've seen as high as 50.
Yeah.
But whatever report you want to accept, it definitely has an impact on negating opioid addiction. That's given.
And not being a gateway drug to
right.
other.
And so to Senator Stivers' point at the beginning of this program, when we were talking about Senate Bill 1, if we're looking at ways, looking at all sorts of opportunities and means and methods of reducing opioid addiction, then creating an opportunity for medical marijuana would be one pathway to do that. And as Representative Hatton indicated, you have now 36 states plus the District of Columbia, Renee, that authorize medical marijuana. I mean, why does Kentucky always have to be one of the last states? We're one of only 14 states now that don't authorize this.
Do you think that it should be legalized, medicinal marijuana, but not be used as some type of revenue enhancer, which studies have shown it wouldn't generate that much revenue?
It wouldn't generate that much money. That's right. And again, Senator Stivers makes a valid point. If you're talking about a medical treatment, using it for medical purposes, then why tax it? He's right about that, because if medicine is medicine, if we don't tax medicine, then doesn't care whether it's aspirin, medical marijuana. But it does offer help and assistance to those people in a number of different who have a number of different ails and illnesses. I mean, I think the time has come when Kentucky has to pass this.
Speaker Osborne, will there be a vote if the committee advances it this time? Will you allow it to come to the floor?
We're continuing to have those conversations. I co-sponsored the bill last year and will again this year as well. Let me give President Stivers credit, though. He issued a challenge to Jason Nemus, who has worked so incredibly hard and diligently on this issue, and has made substantial changes again, even this year, to his bill. But President Stivers issued Jason a challenge, said, "Show me the evidence." And Jason proceeded to put reams and reams and reams of paperwork. Every single day, he'd end up with a new package on his conference room table. And I will give him credit. He's read every single one of them, because he can tell you what's in every single one of them. So I do believe that there's a legitimate interest on his part in understanding the issue, and I'll give Representative Nemus a ton of credit for his work on it.
Do you
but
have?
it's still
excuse me.
No, it's quite all right. It's still a divisive issue. I mean, this is still an issue that is, in many ways, a cultural issue that is makes for some very pointed opinions on this.
Yeah. Do you have the votes? I mean, it's got a long way to go to get to you, but if it were to come out of committee with favorable expression, would you bring it to the Senate floor?
If first of all, I don't control the legislation. We talk among ourselves in leadership and among our caucus to see what is out there in the way of support. And that would be a discussion that we would have if it came out of the House. We haven't had it. But truly, I've always said I'm not either for it nor against it, but I believe there's a pathway forward if some people can come with a very narrow process, just like we do with any other type of drug. Because guess what? Drugs really aren't good for you. If you think about any drug you take, it's because there is a problem with your body. And what you're seeing is that the good of the drug outweighs the bad of the drug. But if you had the choice, you would not take the drug at all. So that's the way I look at this. And when you talk about spasticity for individuals who have muscular sclerosis, it goes back a few years ago when we found, and there was ample evidence, that CBD oils or cannabidiol oils were good for juvenile seizures, and we passed that. That stuff that type of evidence has yet to be placed out there, even though virtually every one of those studies that Jason and others delivered to me says, there is statistically significant indicators. And those, everybody is kind of for it, but we don't know what it is. And those studies are sitting right by it on my table right now.